pleasure and an honor to have Dr. Malo today with us here at HuFriedyGroup. So, Dr. Malo, how did you decide to become a dentist?
I did not really thought of becoming a dentist. I am from Africa. My father was a professional hunter, and we had a big farm with cattle and agriculture products and coffee, for instance, and others. And therefore, normally, I should become a veterinary or agriculture engineer or a professional hunter like my father, because I actually started to help him. In those days, the tourists would come to kill animals, to kill elephants or lions, buffaloes, things like this. Then later on the almost in 1970, 72, then my father decided not to hunt to kill, just hunt to photograph and film. But we started the hunting company. My father started the hunting company very, very early in his life. I think he was 20-something years old when he decided to do that. And my grandfather also, my father's uncle was also a hunter, so this is in the family. So normally I should be a hunter or a veterinary or an agriculture. What happened was that in 1975 there was a revolution and there was a civil war in Angola, the country I come from. Then because of that I had to move out of Angola. I went to South Africa, and then I started to study marine biology. And then at the last year of marine biology I changed to do physics, and then after 6 months I changed to do medicine. And at the last year of medicine I changed for dental.
Wow.
and, and at 35 I did an agriculture course. What made it, so this is to say that if you would say that I would be a dentist, I would definitely say no way, this is not possible. Anything else besides lawyer or dentist, engineer, veterinary, anything, but those two professions were completely out. And when the Civil War started, we went to South Africa, and then in South Africa we started to have problems. That was the time of apartheid and the end of apartheid in South Africa. So we started having a lot of problems in Soweto and things like this. So my father decided that maybe it's better to get out of South Africa, because he did not want to go through a civil war like we started in Angola. That would be very bloody and dangerous. So he decided that we should move out of Africa. And therefore we decided which country to go to. There was a couple countries, 2 or 3 countries that were on the table. But the number one was Australia, because it was most similar to South Africa in terms of wilderness and capacity to start a farming business, because that was my father. But at the last minute, my uncle, which is a professor and the dean of the Coimbra University in Portugal, medical, said, well, why don't you send the kids to Portugal? They go to university, and after they get the degree, then they can go anywhere they want. Because an European degree is always well seen all over the world, and because in Europe we have stability, and it's a nice environment to grow kids and this and that. So my father decided that we would go to Portugal. We spoke Portuguese because Angola was a Portuguese colony. Although my family is not really Portuguese, we are a mix of French, English, and Dutch. But there's also Portuguese in the family. And so therefore we went to Portugal, and then I went to University of Coimbra Medical School, and then at the last year because my two uncles were dentists. And
so there were some
yes,
dentists
yes.
there, not only hunters.
No. My two uncles in Europe, they were dentists. And they were telling me every day, you know, why I wanted to do neurosurgery. And they, every day at breakfast, at dinner, I was living in my uncle's house. And every day at breakfast, lunch, dinner, every time they would joke with me, and they would say, you know, what you're going to do, neurosurgery, there's nothing to do with neurosurgery, and then you will be just an assistant at university, you know. It was a brainwash. You should become a dentist and work with us because we already have the clinic, and it would be easier for you, and for sure you can be a good dentist, you know, this and that. And I said, no way, I'm not going to be a dentist. I'm not going to take care of people's mouth and everything. Anyway, I was playing rugby for the Portuguese team, and I came to play against Italy in a place here called Ancona. And I played the Italian team in Ancona, and actually we lost that game in the last minute. And when I went back to Portugal, the flight was from Ancona to Milan, I think, and from Milan to Paris, and from Paris to Lisbon. Was a flight a little bit strange. And in the flight from Milan, I believe it was Milan to Paris, I decided to be a dentist. Yeah, that flight, after playing the game in Ancona and lost against Italy. Of course, this has nothing to do with the decision, because my uncle was telling me to change and telling me all these things, and I was kind of did not know what to do. So maybe I just followed to be a neurosurgeon, or maybe I just go and be a dentist. At that time, I was really like, I need to decide about my life, and it was on that flight, after that game, that I decided. So when I landed in Lisbon, I called my uncle and I said, okay, you win, I will be a dentist. And he said, good. So, and I knew that it was like almost at the end of the time to apply for the university. I had like 2 or 3 days to apply. So he said to me, go immediately and apply, because if you take too long, you will lose 1 year. So I went to the University of Lisbon. University of Lisbon Dental School was an university in those days that took students from the medical course. So the university dental degree was 6 years. But this university did not have the first 3 years, only the 4th, 5th, and 6th. And this university was built to take students from the medical faculty to change to dentistry. So it was not a dental university typical, okay? Now it is, but in my days was not. So they gave me the 3 years equivalence, so I lost 2. They gave me 3 years equivalence, and I went into the 4th year of dentistry, because the first 3 years was the same as medicine, and then I finished. then I did my PhD, my master's and my PhD, and then at 34 years old, I did an agriculture degree. And in fact, I was the best student of this agriculture degree, and I got a prize about, in today's euros, would be like 25,000 euros, which I started my first farm.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was, you see, I had nothing to do with dentistry. I was pushed into dentistry.
But we are happy you became a dentist.
Yes, today I'm happy. Yeah, today I'm happy that I was a dentist. I am. Did not finish yet, but yes, I am happy that I'm a dentist. But I like this profession. I enjoy this profession, but I'm not in love with the profession. You know, I mean, I'm not someone that wakes up every day and said, "Oh, what such a great idea to become a dentist." I see this as
actually, from let's say oral surgeon, you became actually an innovator.
I'm not an oral surgeon.
businessman.
I'm a dentist with a
because
PhD
it was
in biology.
exactly different in
And
our time.
yes, oral surgery is when you do medicine and then you become an oral surgeon. I did not finish medicine. I did dentistry and then I specialized in surgery. In fact, my first specialization is orthodontics.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I went through 1 year through orthodontics because my uncle was orthodontist, quite famous, and so I did orthodontics. And then I did not see really any enthusiasm on this specialty. It's nice, everything, but I did not see anything special. I was bored, and again I changed. You know, when I changed to dentistry, my father told me one day, said, "Please finish something." You know, I mean, you've been studying for 7 years. You never finished anything. You've been jumping around. And when I finished dentistry, my father gave me a watch, and he said, "This watch means that first you finished the course, and second is to look at the time it took you to finish something."
That's true. Well, from there to, you know, innovator and businessman, this is another journey.
Yes, but again, it was not planned. You know, you don't become a successful businessman or innovator by planning. You know, unless you are 6 years old and you say, "I want to be Michael Jackson," or "I want to be, you know, whatever." In fact, this is something that you don't control. It's not on your. It's not on your power to do this. This is a journey that happens, and events follow events, and at the end you are what you reached, and that is true for every person in the world of success in any field. So what happened was that when I graduated in 1988, I think, quite long ago, I was interested very much, always been interested in reconstruction of the mouth. But I went to orthodontics, more because of the push of my family. But I always thought about, and at university, we had a specialization which was totally dentalism. And these people, they had these horrible dentures, and especially the old ladies and the old men, the dentures would fall and they hurt and everything. And I spent a lot of time in this department when I was a student. I spent a lot of time because I couldn't believe that such a stupid thing would hurt people so much, not only physically, but also psychologically, emotionally. We had people that cried. We had ladies that asked the husband to go out so that they could take the denture out. And I was thinking many times, I said, how is this possible? I mean, we live in the world where we went to the moon and we change hearts of persons, and we have people with this stupid thing on their mouth. They cannot talk. My grandmother would take them out because they were hurting. So really, I was really fascinated by the lack of solutions on this field. So I started to look a lot about how could we do this. And in the beginning, my first focus was prosthodontics, meaning how to save roots, how to save teeth, how to save wisdom teeth, so that we could have fixed bridges, or at least a more fixed denture. So I started on this path, but soon was very clear that that was not the solution, because we could not keep those teeth going. Most of the people did not have teeth. So I started looking at implants. You have to remember that those days were days that implants were in the beginning. You know, we're talking about 1989, 1990. Implants were in the beginning. Professor Brannemark had these ideas and so on and so forth. I could not have a course. There were no courses for implants every day. There was one course per month. One day in Germany, one day in Portugal, one day in Belgium, one day in France. And it was really kind of difficult. And it was very difficult to go to these courses. I give you an example, which is a funny story. I went to Belgium in my first course to learn about how to place an implant and what was an implant and so on and so forth. But before I went to Belgium, and I did Belgium because it was the course available at that time, because the other one was 4 months later in London and the other one was 6 months later somewhere. And that one was like 2 months later when I decided. It was in Brussels. And I wanted to buy the implant kit, the motor and the implant kit, the instruments and everything, because before I went to the course, I would like to start looking at this. And in those days there was no YouTube or anything like that. But I would like to get familiar so that when I would go to the course, at least I would know the instruments on the available. So I tried to buy from, in those days was Nobel Pharma. That now it's called Nobel Biocare, but before it was Nobel Pharma. And so I went to Nobel Pharma and I tried to buy the motor and the kit, and they told me that they could not sell to me because I did not have a course.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was like, you know, in those days, implants were something like buying a jet, you know. You have to go for so many hours of flying, and you know, you have to have this degree of this and that before they actually sell you the kit. That made me very angry, because I said, this is just instruments. You know, you should sell this and, you know, whatever. And then ask if people would like to do this. Of course, they have to go through education. But then they would not sell me. So I went to Belgium, I did the course. And then they sold me the instruments after I did the course. Of course, at that time, or 1 or 2 years later, Straumann was selling the instruments even if you were a carpenter, because they came with a more commercial philosophy. Nobel Biocare, Nobel Pharma in those days, they were not commercial at all. They were kind of an elite of surgeons and dentists around the world that wanted to make implantology something like brain surgery, you know. I remember in those days that when we start to learn to place one implant, we would go to the operating theater completely sterilized. If you touch something, you had to take everything out and dress again to place one implant. I mean, this was absolutely ridiculous. Today, we have people placing implants in a dental office with a jar of flowers next to the desk next to the surgical room. So there has been a huge evolution. That's why the prices collapsed completely. So this is the story. So becoming an innovator changed my life, and as I was saying, I was very curious why we did not have a solution for these people. So I started to think about a way, and of course the only way out was the implants. And then I went to learn about implants, and I started placing implants. And then my first question was, why must we go to the operating room to place an implant? You see, I have a problem. My problem is, I have many problems, but but I have one problem is I always I always like to know why. You know, if you tell me something, I want to know why. And you need to explain to me in a way, in a scientific way, and in a way that I believe. I hate when people tell me, this must be done this way, and I say, why? And then you say, oh, because we've been doing this for many years like this, or because God wants you to be like that, or because your mother wants to be like that. Then you are sure that I will do exactly the opposite. So, and when I ask why do we need to go to operating room, because we are working in the mouth, and when you work in the mouth, you know, it's immediately the moment you open the mouth, immediately you lose all sterilization. That does not mean that you should bring contaminated instrument into your mouth, but your mouth is completely contaminated. So if the instruments go to your mouth are sterilized, the moment you open the mouth and the moment you place the instrument in your mouth, they will be contaminated with your bacteria, with your microorganisms. So why do we need to have a sterilized room? So that was the first clash. And I start doing implants in a dental room, and I start to have a lot of problems. Not with the cases, but with colleagues go, oh, but you cannot do this because, you know, it's not a full sterilized room. And then I remember some very famous surgeons today, retired today, of course. And I remember them, you know, almost calling me names. And today we go through that and they just laugh. And the second thing was, why must we wait 4 or 6 months for the bone to hold the implant? If we can make it faster, then we save a lot of time, which means we save a lot of money. Because when you do an implant, you have to open 2 times. The first time you place the implant, the second time to open the implant, place the abutment and start the crown. If we do everything in one day, then the price, meaning the cost, is almost half. Almost half, because the cost of a surgery, 40% is time. 40% is time and 60% is the products. So if we take away time, then we can drop about 40%. And of course, for the patient, it's much more comfortable. You don't go through 2 surgeries, anesthesia, antibiotics, and this and that. So I said, why can't we place an implant and immediately place the crown? So in 1990, I started to do what it's called today immediate load, single teeth and small bridges. And I started doing this, and in 1994, 95, I went to Nova Biocare and I explained what I was doing. And there was an engineer called Bo Rangert, probably the one that knew most in the world about biomechanics. He died, lung cancer. He did not smoke. He was really, when I said to him, listen, I am doing this, and I do not want to do something that somebody has already done before. I'm just wasting my time. But I cannot find in the literature any reference to this placing of the teeth or the crown at the same time as the implant. So he said, Paulo, nobody does that. I said, yeah, you must be joking. Yeah, nobody does that. Are you having good results? Yes, I'm having 100% results, and it's already 3 years. And he said, this is amazing. So let's do this. So we start together starting a study. And we started a study. We had like 14 or 15 cases. And we went through 1 year. And then he said to me, this changes implantology completely, because we do not need to really wait so much. But for that, we need a special implant that would give you primary anchorage, meaning that the way some companies would do the implant, which meaning drill the hole, place the implant with your hand without pressure, we cannot do immediate load. We had to develop an implant that would screw and have immediate anchorage, immediate stabilization. So that made me start thinking of a new implant and start thinking of a new implant to do that. In 1996, I wanted, and Bo Rangert, we wanted to publish this technique, and no company, no publisher would accept this because they all said that it was a crazy idea. To place an implant and the crown immediately was a crazy idea. No one wanted to publish. So in 1996, I published the first paper on immediate load, single teeth and small bridges on the front of the mouth in a magazine that belonged to Nobel Biocare called Talk of the Times, with the permission of Professor Brannemark and the lady that was taking care of the publication called I forgot the name, Lind something. And it was what was Professor Brannemark that allowed her to publish my paper on this publication, which was not a scientific publication. It was a publication of Nobel Biocare. Mm-hmm. Like today they have Nobel News or something like that. In those days they had Talk of the Times, was a white book. And later, Bo Rangert invited some experienced and famous dentists to Gothenburg, because Nobel Pharma was based in Gothenburg. He invited and to listen to me. So there was about maybe 15 people in the room from all over the world, the most important users of implants in those days. In those days, Nobel Pharma controlled the implant world. I think there's like 80% of the implants placed in the world in those days it was Nobel Pharma. And then I explained, I showed the videos, I showed the photos, the statistics of this, and everybody in the room, besides two people, everybody said, this is crazy, this cannot work. Only two people said, obviously it's working, so we need to wait more time to do this. One person from Australia, and the other one from Sweden said, in order for this to be proven that works, you need to do a split mouth, meaning that in one part of the mouth you do immediate load, in the other part you don't do immediate load, you wait 1 or 2 years and you see the difference. But then I said, but if we are doing in both sides of the mouth and it's already 5 years working, why do I need to go back to do this? Because it's after 5 years. So this man, which I'm not going to mention the name, he was very furious with me. He's a very famous professor, and I was a kid, so he started almost calling me names and this and that. And Bo Rangert said, "Oh, calm down, you know. He's just presenting his work, you know. And you guys decide if Nobel Biocare should follow this or not." Right. Everybody said no. This same man, 4 years later or 3 years later, published immediate load single teeth, and everybody said that he was the first one to publish, which is not true. So in one congress, when I said this is the first publication of immediate load single teeth and small bridges in the front segment of the mouth, there was somebody from the audience said, no, that's not the first. The first publication was from Professor so-and-so in 2000. I said, I'm sorry. If you read, it's 1996. And then we started a big discussion, because they said, yes, but you published not in a scientific magazine, you published on another magazine. And then there was one professor from the United States called Steve, that he said, no, he could even publish his study on the National Geographic. The moment a scientific study is published, it doesn't matter where it is published. Okay. It is a scientific study, so it is true. So from that moment, I got the first publication of immediate load single teeth. And I designed the implant to do that. I designed the abutments to do that. I even designed the drills to be able to get more anchorage. And I designed the the sequence and the protocol to get most stability in dense bone, medium bone, and soft bone. And then I sold this to Noble Biocare. In those days, Noble Pharma was my first deal business with Noble Biocare, and that was late. It was 10 years later. So I started in 1990. Only in 2000, Noble Biocare decided to buy this. So this is the innovator. Now, from that moment, what happened was that a whole new door opened to me, because from then onwards, I started to work on immediate load. I started to work with different products to allow this. So I got really ahead of the other dentists for 20 years. So I was very, very lucky. And I developed the All-on-4, because then again, the same story. Why must we place 8 implants to hold 12 teeth? Why? Why can't we hold 12 teeth only on 4 implants? Because you understand, if I only need 4 implants for 12 teeth, normally I have enough bone. But if you tell me that to hold 12 teeth you need 14 implants, I surely do not have enough bone and I need to graft. So the big question is it true? Is it true that you need 10 or 8 implants to hold 12 teeth, or is it a lie? Is it true that you can hold it with only 4 implants? Because if we can hold 12 teeth with only 4 implants, we have a revolution, because we are overworking. We do not need all these grafting materials. We do not need all these grafting, which is very expensive,
Exactly.
which takes more than 1 year to finish the case. And that was the big question.
Time and money.
Yes.
And
So from the
simplifying.
biomechanical point of view, I joined forces with Professor Bo Rengert, and both of us biomechanically proved that 4 implants in specific positions would hold 12 teeth, right? So that was a revolution.
All
and
on
that was
4.
All on 4.
All on
And that was a revolution. In fact, it was the Malo protocol for dentalists. And when I sold this to Noble Biocare, I could not call it the Malo protocol, because at that time I was told that if I called the Malo protocol, a lot of dentists would feel, because of the ego problem, the emotional problem, they would not feel comfortable. So I had to find a sexy name and a commercial name.
Neutral commercial.
So basically, I sat down in a restaurant in Gothenburg with Professor Bo Rengert, and with the pen and the paper that the plate was on top, we started writing the name. And I said, okay, I want a name. I do not want to call it Sunny Implant, Sunny Technique, this and that. It means nothing. I want the name to mean what we do. So, all teeth on only 4 implants. That's how the first phase we came up. And then I said, yeah, okay, good, but this is too long. And we start shorten, and all on 4. It comes from all teeth on only 4 implants.
Makes
and then
sense,
it became very, very famous. And at the same time was sexy, because all on 4 is always sexy, a sexy word. In fact, there was...
you have to think of some marketing aspect
yes,
of the product.
All on 4 is an easy name, is a nice
Yeah.
name. And you have a lot of things, all on 1 and in other fields.
Yeah.
Now, because of that, we started to develop our business. Can you imagine? Somebody comes to you and said, okay, it costs you 40,000 euros, you wait 1 year and you have teeth. But if you are over 75, 8 years old, I cannot give you a graft. Or you are diabetic, I cannot give you a graft. You would come to me, I said, for 20,000 euros, you walk out with teeth. And you can be old or young. Obviously, I made the biggest clinic in the world, in Lisbon, a small country, with 40,000 square meters, 1,100 people working, and I moved around the world in 15 countries, and because of the innovation, I became a businessman. So you see, I did not choose to be a businessman.
So one consequence of the other.
The success was a consequence of the innovation, And because of the innovation and the success, I was forced to be a businessman. That is the story.
Wow, 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 that's amazing. And it makes me think of the sentence that Professor Brannemark said. It's no one should die with their teeth in a glass of water, exactly. And you kind of improve that.
Yes,
right,
I believe in that. That is something that the phrase itself means that it's very uncomfortable, it's very inhumane to have somebody with the mouth with dentures. I feel very, very sorry for people with dentures in their mouths, especially those that cannot fix them, right? I feel very sorry for them. And one of the things I did was that after developing this concept, the prices went down to half. Now, for you to understand, when we say the price went down to half, we are saying 10 to 20,000 euros less. 10 to 20,000 euros less, and the quality of the treatment is higher, and the success rate of this is always higher than grafting. So it was a huge step forward. And this is my gift to humanity. Every dentist today that does implantology knows about this technique, and most of them that do fully dentalism, which is the most difficult part, they use this technique. And we have benefited, I would not say millions of patients, but for sure hundreds of thousands of patients have benefited from this technique. Some of them because they could not do the graft, because too old, diabetics or other diseases. Others could not do this because of cost issues. So this technique allowed people with less money and people without the characteristics necessary for grafting to have teeth in one day.
All right, so after the story you told me, we noticed that it's very important to choose the right partner in the industry, right?
Yes. In fact, it is essential because when you develop something, you do not, whatever you create, whatever value that has no value if it does not become commercially available. Now, if I developed the All-on-4 and I decided that I would not partner with any industrial company, any industrial partner, then probably today 20 people in the world will be doing All-on-4, and which means that very few patients would benefit from this. It is any creation, whatever value it is, if you do not make it commercially available, the value of that creation is zero. So, because most creators do not have the economic capacity, do not have the marketing, do not have the commercial ability to bring that into the market, right? We are just creators. Now, if you go to a small company, it's a little bit better than nothing, but also you do not reach. So I made a point of going to the biggest company in the world in those days, which was Nobel Pharma. It took me, but then again, it is very important for the industry to understand and to have the knowledge. These companies tend to be a financial company. They tend to be a manufacturing company, and they lose knowledge. So normally the company starts with knowledge. A successful company like yourselves, HuFreedy, always starts with because someone knows how to make high quality instruments, right? And then as the company grows, there is a danger of losing this. There's a danger of losing this knowledge, this capacity. Sure. And there's a danger of the company becoming just a manufacturer, or danger of becoming a financial asset and lose the creativity. lose the knowledge and, most important, lose the capacity of understanding something new in the market. And it took me 10 years to convince Noble Biocare, Noble Pharma, to understand that immediate load, single teeth, and all-on-4 was good. 10 years. For 10 years, every year, I would go there with the help of someone inside, Bo Rengert, and I would present the studies, and I would present the results. At one point, everything was so obvious. And by the way, I went to also some other, 2 or 3 other big companies. Immediately they reject. Some of them, they didn't even want to talk to me. One of them, which I'm not going to say the name because it's quite famous, I had a meeting with the president and he said, well, I spoke to some dentists and they said that that does not work. I said, I understand, but you know, you should not speak to dentists. You should see the results and make a decision, because dentists are not creators. Dentists are not scientists. Dentists are practitioners. They make holes, they close holes. Most of them do not have the capacity to understand something innovative. Because there's 2 kinds of innovation. There is logic innovation that everybody in the world understands. If you have a phone and that phone takes pictures, and all of a sudden somebody makes that phone take pictures and films, this is a logic innovation. Everybody understands. But if you have an innovation which is rupture, it's something that ruptures completely. If you take your phone and put under your skin, then 99% of the human beings will not understand, will be afraid, and immediately they will deny. So disruptive innovation, we call it. Logic innovation, everybody understands. Disruptive innovation, no one understands. Very few people understand that. But it is disruptive innovation that makes big companies. And it took us 10 years, because every time I went, Noble Biocare called some dentists and they said, look at this. And they said, no, ridiculous. This is crazy. 4 implants. How can you do 4 on implants? And on top of that, the implants are not straight, they are skewed. And on top of that, you do an immediate load. And on top of that, it's a plastic bridge. All these things were against the rules. Can you imagine? A technique that is 100% made on forbidden things to do. I mean, it's not that you do 5 things and 1 is forbidden and the others are accepted. No, it's 5 things, 5 forbidden. Of course, people did not understand that. What is the funny story? The funny story is that, and this is very, very typical. The company changed the CEO, the president. And the new president came to this company, and this president had some characteristics that allowed Noble Biocare to accept the all-on-4, make a fortune on all-on-4, and be the leader on the market. What was this? Was a female. It's amazing. A female was the first female that I know president of a dental company of implants, because all of them are males. Was a female. This female was crazy in the good sense, smoking 3 packets of cigarettes per day, running at 5 o'clock in the morning for 10 miles. She came not from the dental industry. She came from outside. Medical, but outside. And the first thing she said to me when she came in and we presented this, she said, but this seems to be a really amazing technique. Why did we not implement this? And other people said, well, because we asked dentists what they think about this. Immediately she said, I don't care what dentists think. This is the company needs to decide if this is good or not. And when she said that, I immediately said, okay, we have somebody here now. And then she decided to take that. After 10 years, in 10 minutes, she decided that Noble Biocare would buy, would implement, and would teach the world this technique. And that was the beginning of the all-on-4.
So true that the companies are made of people.
Companies, they tend every company, from Microsoft to Facebook, every company starts. Ford, Honda, Daimler, every Fiat, Lamborghini, Mr. Lamborghini, you know,
course.
every company starts with one person that has special characteristics in making something either high quality or disruptive. It's always like that. Every company in the world that has success started with someone doing something high quality or disruptive. And that company goes, in the history of the company, goes through phases. Some die because the second generation of leaders cannot take it forward. And others become bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you become bigger, every company, when they become bigger, they become more financial oriented. They become more marketing oriented, more product related, and less knowledge. So the company starts to be run not by people that have knowledge on the product, but by financial people, which is nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But they should have a combination. They should have always a combination. And what we see today in these big companies is that they lack the capacity of recognizing new innovation, disruptive innovation. They lack. And now and then you need someone to come to the company and bang the desk and do something. This is typical of and the companies grow, and I understand, because as the company grows, we become more financial complex. So
but if they lose
but you cannot lose the innovation.
It's a dead company.
Especially companies that live and the success is in innovation.
Right.
You have to have these people there. I mean, you have these companies that disrupted created disruptive innovation in software. You know, like YouTube, Facebook, and all these kinds of things. The people that invented that, they're still in the company. They either run the company together with the financial people, or they are in the board saying something. Never forget the story of Steve Jobs. You see, if you look at the story of Steve Jobs, it's exactly what happens to many companies. You have an idea, you grow, then the financial people take over, and then if they're not clever enough, you lose this knowledge, you lose these people, they move out and they collapse, and these people come up.
It's true.
This I've seen in many companies. It is amazing, and that's to say that it is essential for any innovation to have success and to have value. It is essential that you partner with the right industry or the right company, industrial company. It is essential. Without
so talking
it,
about companies, how did you choose HuFreedy?
Well, HuFreedy is, I've been working with HuFreedy for a long time. To be honest, I don't even know how many years, but maybe 20 years. Maybe 20 years working with HuFreedy. The reason I chose HuFreedy is very simple. HuFreedy makes, in my opinion, HuFreedy makes the best quality instruments for dentistry. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And this is very important. Also, HuFreedy not only makes, in my opinion, the best quality instruments, but also has some instruments that are unique. And I can give you some examples that we cannot find that instrument in other companies. Or we find, but nowhere near the same quality. Now, we are not talking about a probe or a spatula or a curette, because there is not so much innovation in these products.
But Curette made our company
Yes,
exactly
of course.
what you
Your
say.
company
Because
was made on
Gracie came and said we should,
Exactly.
innovate,
Exactly.
and this is how we.
But this is exactly
went.
what I'm saying. This company was, the people that ran this company were intelligent enough and knowledgeable enough to understand who brought good ideas and to take the good ideas.
Exactly.
But as you know, when you make a forceps, or when you make a curette and you make a spatula, the difference in quality among, because today you have many competitors. This is not 100 years ago.
Of course.
100 years ago, there was like Nobel Pharma, but now it's a lot of competitors.
Exactly, yeah.
The competitors will compete with you on the simple instruments. The competitors will not compete with you in the sophisticated instruments like the bone, what you call this. I can't even show you this. The ronger. Yeah. The ronger from HuFreedy has no competition. No, this instrument has no competition.
Also, now we have new Malo instruments that have no competition.
If you take this one, of course you have competition. Yeah. But if you take a ronger, this instrument has no competition. And you need to know the instrument to understand you have no competition and the difference between HuFreedy ronger and another ronger. And of course, then you have innovation. If you partner with dentists and oral surgeons that can give you input in some instruments, I'm sure, and this has been the history of this company, that you can bring instruments that an instrument will never change greatly the effect.
We like to say that we bring solutions, for this.
But you help. It's much easier to work a sharp instrument. And that is very important. It's easy to work with a sharp instrument. It makes you less tired, makes you more efficient than with a blunt instrument. So this is the kind of things that you bring into the table. You bring quality in your instruments, which is very important, but you also have instruments that only you have, and that makes a big difference.
We also have this now, but I have to say that we continue to look to innovation.
Yes, definitely. But in your company it's easier, because this is not. This is an instrument company. It's easier than a product like this.
We are more than instrument.
No, I'm talking about HuFreedy.
Mm-hmm. But now we are part of the infection control organization.
But in the HuFreedy, in the instrument, in the making of the instrument, it's not so complex. You need knowledge to understand, make this product or not. Is this a product to make a dentist egos happy or not? You have to understand.
Or
that.
I guess even if we screw up one, it's not a big deal.
It's not
Let's
a big
say
deal.
it can be
now Nobel Biocare or Straumann, they screw up in one implant.
Yeah,
they screw up on one implant that they launched. For instance, the Nobel Perfect. They lost like 15 million euros in 1 year. And then, of course, the CEO has to answer. Because again, it was not a product that was validated by the team that's supposed to be validated. It was validated by the fund. Yes. Yeah. Because it was cheaper, because there was somebody friend of the fund and this and that. This is the problem with the companies.
So what is the role of All-on-4 kit in the Malo protocol?
When we developed the All-on-4 and the Zygoma technique, the Zygoma new technique, we need to have instruments and we need to have products for this. Every time you develop a new technique, you have to have products that make that technique more efficient, and you have to have instruments that make that technique most efficient. It's always like that. And once you have the new products and the new instruments, those two things allow you to innovate more the technique. And this is like one pushes the other, One pushes the other. You can only be very efficient when you have the right products and instruments and the team to make that efficient.
And when you have them also all together in a cassette
yes, because
to provide a
called,
solution, right?
It's called efficiency.
Exactly.
Efficiency is not only the quality, in this case of the instruments, but efficiency is also the time consuming. For instance, I always joke with this story. When I go into a dental room and I see a dentist operating, and if I see he has 30 instruments around him, I say, he's not good. You understand? He's not good.
I think that as well.
Because you do not need all those instruments. You know, we have to be efficient. We have to be organized. It's like if you go a chef in the Japanese cuisine, he has two knives. He has the big knife and the sushi knife. They call it sushi knife. And these two knives, one bigger and one smaller, with these two knives they do everything. They probably even raise. When this cassette that we developed together with HuFreedy has half a dozen instruments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 instruments. Yeah. So these instruments are enough to do all kinds of implant work, all kinds of techniques, immediate load, all on 4. And if you want to do a little bit more sophisticated, the zygoma technique, then you need only 2 more instruments. Why? Only because the zygoma is not so close to the entrance of the mouth. So the instruments must be longer. That is the only reason. You cannot have a short instruments because my hand will not fit in someone's mouth. My hand must be outside the mouth and the tip of instrument must be inside the mouth. If the zygoma is here, then I need a long instrument. If I'm working on the front, then I can have an instrument this long. So it is very, very important to have as minimum instruments as possible, and one instrument should be able to do different things. Yeah. For instance, with this kit, I do sinus lifts. I do any type of implant. I do any type of gingivectomy or soft tissue modeling. I do any type of technique of implants. All on 4, parallel implants, transsinus, tuberosity, and if I put 2 instruments more, I do zygoma. Now, if I take those 2 instruments out of the kit to do zygoma, I can still do zygoma, but not efficient. Right. Because I need a longer instrument to open the zygoma. So this is why we have this kit. Simple, very, very small, very organized, and one kit does it all.
Exactly. So there is a solution for all the dentists there with this kit.
With this kit you do all kinds of surgery. With this kit, I've seen people working with 6 curettes. 6 curettes. Surgical curettes. I'm not talking about Gracie's because it's a different story. Surgical curettes. You have the little one, the less little, the medium, the less medium, the big, and the extra big. 6 curettes. You do not need that. We have 4 curettes, meaning we have 2 curettes with 4 sizes. That's more than enough, So this is what makes you somebody with experience and maturity that I have over almost 30 years of this. We just look at someone working, and I just look at 2 things. Number 1, the posture. If he's all skewed, working like this, sweating, I said, okay, this is a problem. Or if he has a cassette or 4 cassettes on top of the table with all kinds of instruments, that immediately says that this person does not have quality or experience. Another thing that also calls me attention is the mess. If you go to a kitchen of a professional chef, everything is organized and clean. When you go to a kitchen, when the knife is on the floor, the spoon is on the roof, and everything is a mess and is full of food around him, he's not a chef. surgeons
true.
and chefs
So true.
are very similar.
So true.
We want to use as minimum instruments as possible, everything clean and organized.
In a cassette.
So in a
yeah.
cassette, so we
Very
can
good.
work efficiently, and we don't need to make a mess to make dinner. We don't need to make a mess to do surgery. And this is
Very
how
good point.
this is how we should
Less
work.
is more.
Yes,
Miss Wandera.
less is more efficient. Absolutely.
Absolutely, it's true.
Absolutely. Can you imagine how much money you need to have in your office if you have, for each surgery, you have to open 20 instruments?
Yeah,
It's
of
ridiculous.
course. Yeah, it makes no sense.
It's
I mean, this
ridiculous.
is the point also why we developed also instrument management
Yeah.
system with cassettes, you know, to help organize better and to be more efficient in that.
And also, you don't want to sharpen the instruments often. You know, the quality
Exactly.
of the
It's
steel.
also how
the
you treat.
Yes, it's very important because you cannot, like the wronger, for instance, and the curates, especially the wronger. Wronger are some things that lose sharpness very fast because we are cutting bone with it all the time. So they lose sharpness, and it's not nice to have a wronger that's not sharp.
Of course.
And
Especially when you are there, when you
yes,
need
of
it,
course.
right?
Not only you have to use more force that tires your hand, but also is not cutting the bone, he's squeezing the bone.
Yeah.
It's not good.
So it's not.
So it's very important to have these instruments that are sharp, and they keep their sharpness for a long time.
Yeah.
All these details are very important, very, very
when you
important.
put them all together, then they
Yeah.
make a difference.
Yes, of course.
And tell me something, I'm curious, do you do something specific about the infection control before, during and after surgery? I mean,
Yes,
how?
I mean this is you
How do you-
cannot do surgery without infection control. I mean, infection control is part of surgery. Of course, when we go to operate in the mouth, it's not the same as operating in the brain or heart or bone surgery. It's completely different. The infection control of the mouth is at the lower level than infection control when you do, for instance, orthopedics. It's completely different. But having said that, you cannot take instruments to the mouth of the patient that are not completely cleaned, and the instrument shape also changes that, because the instrument should be as polished as possible so that we can wash and sterilize as possible. If the instrument has holes and this and that, there's always, you can kill the bugs, but you cannot clean. So it's very important, not only, there's two things that are very important in instruments. Not only kill the microorganisms, but also clean the instrument. So instruments should be as polished as possible so that you can not only, killing the bugs is easy if you have a good sterilization system, but cleaning is not so easy. Right. Because if the instrument has big holes and crevices, right, it's very difficult to clean.
So you have to have the right protocol, of course.
You have to write the right protocol.
And after too.
I'm not going to teach anybody here about this, but there's a protocol to clean the instrument and to disinfect and to sterilize. So it's not just sterilization.
Exactly.
Sterilization is not enough, and cleaning is not enough. It's cleaning and sterilization and packaging. Because then if you clean, sterilize, but the packaging is bad, then you destroy everything that you did before.
Right.
And also there's another thing important: the management of the instruments. You cannot bring the instruments and throw them like in the kitchen, like if it was spoons and knives. It's not. These instruments are highly contaminated.
Of course.
This is not a restaurant. So you cannot wash these instruments as you wash spoons and knives in the restaurant. So, and now with this situation of the COVID and everything, it's even more important.
Right, of course.
Right? But honestly, I'm more afraid of hepatitis and tuberculosis than the COVID in the surgical room. We have to be able to deliver the instruments to the sterilization room and to bring the instruments from the sterilization room to the surgical room in a manner that not only is efficient, time-saving, but safe.
Exactly.
And then, of course, in the sterilization, we need to manage the instruments in a safe way, efficient way, which means cleaning, disinfecting
The right
and
way,
packaging.
yeah,
This is
exactly,
very, very important.
Exactly. Thank you. What is the best way for dentists to educate on all-on-4 and, let's say, Malo protocol?
You know, the Malo protocol is very. There's many things under the Malo protocol, because we have the Malo protocol for the all-on-4, we have the Malo protocol for single implants.
So if a dentist wants to
if the dentist wants to
educate and learn
about these
what do you
specific
suggest?
protocols, I suggest that they go first through a theoretical lecture, because many things, most dentists, if they are experienced enough, most dentists will just need a theoretical lecture to guide them. But if you go to things like zygoma techniques and all-on-4 techniques, then no matter how experienced you are, you should go for a theoretical lecture, and you should go for hands-on. And if you can, you go for something which the third level, which is teaching over the shoulder. What does that mean? That means that you have your patient, you are doing the surgery, and someone that is experienced on that particular technique is next to you. Theory lectures are the first step, then hands-on is the second step, and then the third step is for very specific things that you need to learn. These are the 3 steps to go through.
Mm-hmm. In order to avoid some confusion, can you explain us, please, what is the difference between Malo Clinic and Malo Dental?
Oh, I started Malo Clinic about 26 years ago. And about last year, Malo Clinic was, basically my partner, which was a bankrupt. And this caused big confusion in the company. And I left Malo Clinic, and a fund took over Malo Clinic. And I started Malo Dental. So today, Malo Dental is present in 20 countries with 200 and something clinics, and they're all Malo Dental, they are mine. And in Portugal, where we started, where the base of the company is, Malo Clinic had, I think, 12 or 13 clinics. Now they are, I believe they are now only 6 clinics. And Malo Dental, we started in February. We had COVID months that we stopped. But today we are in September, and we are going to inaugurate the 16th clinic. So we have 16 clinics done until the end of the year. So basically, all the education program, all the innovation is in the Malo Dental, because this is my group, obviously. Malo Clinic is a company that still exists. They have, I believe, 5 or 6 clinics, and but it is another clinic, just like another competitor. It's completely different. We have nothing to do with Malo Clinic. We are Malo Dental. Most of the people that work with me, the education department, the research department, is Malo Dental. So Malo Clinic.
So you took people with
yes,
with
we
you.
took everybody. So Malo Clinic basically is reduced to 5 or 6 clinics, and in Portugal. So it's a dental clinic like anybody else, but is not present internationally. Does not have a research team. Does not have an innovation. This year, next year is coming up another innovation, big innovation, and so basically it is this way. So it's completely separated.
Okay. Today you inspire many dentists. But when you were at the beginning of your career, did you have someone inspiring you? Maybe someone from whom you learned, or maybe just...
Yeah, I was inspired by many people in different aspects.
But like in dentistry, in concrete, was there someone who particularly...
Yes.
Besides your uncles that convinced you to be a dentist?
My uncle was an inspiration, that's for sure, because not only because of his quality as a professional, but also because his style of life. He was someone that did not follow trends. He followed scientific So that is my background. My background is very easy. It's very simple. I'm a very practical person. I don't follow trends. I don't follow religions or politics or clubs. I follow science. If you can prove something to me with science, I follow you. If you do not prove, I don't follow you. So my uncle definitely. Then there was Professor Brannemark, of course, he's kind of the grandfather of all of us. I am kind of the third generation. There's Brannemark, and there's another generation that actually taught me, which I have 4 or 5 people that I really admire, not only for their skills, and some of them, I would say that they are not particularly skilled, but their attitude.
Sometimes the people are inspired by different things. It doesn't need to be.
And in my generation, which I'm on the 50s now, in my generation, I also have people that I admire, and younger I actually admire as well. There's a couple dentists that I know much younger than me that I really admire as well. And when I say I admire, it's not their skills. Some of them are very high skills, but it's the human being, it's the attitude, it's the person, it's the way these people go through life. This to me is very important. The way, to me, the most important is how you go through life, how honest you are, how fair you are. Today we are polluted by egos and by arrogance. It's so stupid, it's so ridiculous, and you know, it is very difficult to be fair. It's very difficult to be humble. It's very difficult to be honest. The reason is very simple. When you are fair and honest, it means that many times you have to make decisions that hurt you. And that is not nature. You know, that is anti-natural. When you make a decision that will not benefit you, in fact, it can actually hurt you, but it's the right decision, not many people, not many human beings are ready to do this. You understand? Not many. Very, very few human beings are ready to make a decision which is the honest one, which is the right one, and the fair one, but by taking that decision, you're going to hurt yourself. And that is very, very difficult. You can do this towards your son, your daughter, your family members. Even there, many people don't do it.
You're right.
But towards other members of your community, I would say less than 5% of human beings are willing to make a decision. Listen to me. Less than 5% of human beings are willing to make a decision that they know it's the right one, but they will hurt themselves. Less than 5%. Most of them, if the decision hurts them, they prefer to go to the not correct decision in order not to hurt themselves. And that is something that separates human beings, the normal human beings from the special human beings. You see, this is the, and you do not need to be a Mother Teresa of Calcutta. You understand?
Of course, yeah.
I'm not going that far. Just me and you, just people in the street, in the community. How many people are willing to say, gee, the right way to do is this, but it's bad for me? How many people are going to do it? Really think. And actually, you can do that for yourself. You know, you can go home every day and say, okay, how many decisions did I not make the correct decision because I did not want to hurt myself? And you'll be surprised, because after the year you say, oops, I was not correct in that one and that one. And then you will find an excuse for you to sleep well.
Of course.
Because yes, but you know, because this and that. That is very difficult.
Wow, no, you are right. It's a really a thing.
And this is these are the people that I really admire, you know. And I'm not perfect, of course. I make a lot of wrong decisions, and I hurt people like anybody else hurts people without meaning. But I tell you one thing, I make a kind of a flashback of everything I do every day. And if I did something wrong, I hurt somebody without meaning, obviously, I always correct it. I always come down the next day or 2 days later and say, hey, this was not right, please, let's fix this. I make that point in my life. In my life, I make a point of not hurting anybody on purpose, and I make a point that if I hurt somebody, I immediately correct with my own cost. It doesn't matter. And people that are close to me, they know this. I always tell, I don't care where it hurts, but we will always do the right thing. And sometimes the right thing gets me into trouble.
What gives you most satisfaction in your professional life?
Oh, that's a deep question. Need to think. Most satisfaction. It is to do something well. I normally, when I talk to people, I always give an example. If I have two choices, to make something that is not profitable or very little profit, but it is good and everybody recognizes that is really high quality, that's really good, or something that will give me a lot of profit, but everybody recognizes it's not so high quality, not so good. I definitely 100%, and I would never hesitate that I would prefer to have no profit or less profit, but be doing something well.
I can confirm that because just for the audience to know, Dr. Malo doesn't take any monetary, contribution because he's using HuFreedy. I want this to be clear.
Yeah.
So this is actually the confirmation of what you just said.
I have many companies that I would never, ever in my life sit here and talk about HuFreedy for if I did not believe in the product and if I was just paid for that, forget it.
Makes sense.
That would be absolutely impossible in my life. If I talk about something, it's because I truly believe that this is good. Now, for some things I get paid for because of royalties, because of this. Others I do not get paid for. So I do not get paid to talk about HuFreedy. We have a good collaboration. I have your support on developing instruments and this and that. But I do not have any commission on the sales of the instruments I develop with you and this and that. We just have a good collaboration, and I have your help in developing new things. Yeah.
Thank you. We are very proud to collaborate with you. Thank you so
And
much
too.
for all your support and for all your contribution. And I think that's it, guys. For the moment, let's see.
Now you have a lot of work in.
Now, yes, I think we will.